Today, we'll be diving into the fascinating neuroscience behind the world's most infamous drug, cocaine. We'll explore how this substance hijacks your brain's pleasure system, why the Comedown leaves you feeling so low and depressed, and the long-term mental health effects linked to chronic usage of this drug. To understand cocaine's effect, we have to first start with dopamine, the brain's key feel-good neurotransmitter. Neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that transmit signals between neurons. Dopamine is crucial for inducing feelings of reward and pleasure, motivation, focus and attention, and many other thoughts, emotions, and behaviors such as in learning and memory. Cocaine affects several neurotransmitters, including dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, and glutamate, with dopamine being the primary focus due to its significant role it plays in cocaine's feel-good properties. To understand how drugs work, we first need to look at how the brain communicates. A neuron is a specialized cell that plays a central role in how the brain processes and communicates information. When a signal arrives to the presynaptic neuron, this causes it to release stored dopamine, represented by these green circles. The dopamine is released into the space between the two neurons, termed as the synaptic cleft. The dopamine then diffuses across the synaptic cleft and binds to receptors on the postsynaptic neuron. This binding between molecule and receptor is what elicits the signaling response in the postsynaptic neuron, leading to feelings of reward, pleasure, and motivation. After dopamine binds to the receptors, it is recycled by dopamine transporters, represented by the orange channels on the membrane of the presynaptic neuron. Let's now look at how cocaine elicits feelings of pleasure, motivation, and reward. Cocaine, represented by the black lines, binds to and blocks the dopamine transporters, preventing the recycling of dopamine by the presynaptic neuron. This results in a higher concentration of dopamine molecules within the synaptic cleft. This increase in dopamine triggers a feedback loop, causing the presynaptic neuron to release even more dopamine. This results in an even higher concentration of dopamine within the synaptic cleft, meaning more binding between dopamine and receptors, exaggerating and inducing feelings of reward, pleasure, and motivation. Let's now look at why you experience a Comedown and feel miserable the following days after consuming this substance. The neuroscientific rationale explaining this is twofold. First, during the high, dopamine receptors on the postsynaptic neuron are overstimulated. This causes them to become temporarily less sensitive. Second, dopamine stores on the presynaptic neuron are depleted, meaning less dopamine is released into the synaptic cleft. These two factors result in a significantly fewer number of dopamine molecules binding to receptors to trigger action potentials within a postsynaptic neuron, and therefore ultimately produce significantly fewer feelings of overall happiness. Finally, let's look at the long-term complications associated with chronic cocaine usage. Over time, excessive usage of cocaine changes how your brain works. This is termed neuroadaptation, where the brain naturally produces less dopamine and dopamine receptors. This can contribute to chronic lower mood, motivation, and overall happiness. The point of this video is not to demonize drugs. Instead, it is to raise awareness of the consequences that can be associated with excessive use over an extended period of time. Furthermore, it's important to note that our brains are wonderful, resilient organs, which can heal itself over time. So guys, this is my first video and it took me a while to make, so please support the channel by liking, subscribing, commenting, and sharing this video where possible. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.